Good evening, Yarnies. How is everybody? Adjust my light. We're going to need that light here in a second. Hope everybody's having a good evening. May all your stitches be even, and may you always win at Yarn Chicken. Yes. Thank you, Rolling for Apples, and welcome to the stream. First time chatter. How are you? Alrighty. So, sorry I didn't stream Thursday night. I was dealing with a really bad toothache, but I'm feeling a lot better now. We will pick up. Hey there, Death Angel. How are you? We will pick up on next Thursday for our Throwback Thursday. We'll continue that. Hey, Grammy. So what I didn't do this past Thursday, which was our mystery edging pattern, we will do next Thursday. So everything's kind of getting bumped down a bit. I try not to miss Throwback Thursdays, but things happen. Tonight, we're continuing our beaded crochet. Let me get my example from Monday. Monday, I showed how to do, I've got a tangled mess. And then us yarnies know how that is. It's par for the course when it comes to crochet and knitting and weaving and fiber arts. Alrighty, so on Monday, it's keying out. I showed how to do beaded crochet on a flat panel. Even though this isn't a round, when I was doing it, it was a flat panel. So I added these beads to make a headband. That's real simple again. You string all your beads in the order that you want them to be in. And then as you do your rows, wherever you need a bead, you slip it down, do a stitch to lock it in. And the beads will sit on the surface of your fabric. So, real easy. Similar type thing we're doing tonight, but tonight we're doing beaded crochet jewelry. And I got a big old pile here. I'm going to switch my sources in a second. And the only difference is we're not doing it in a flat. We're not doing rows back and forth. We're crocheting in a spiral tonight. So we're not doing it in rounds and then slip stitching and chaining. No, we're just constantly stitching. We're not, we're going to count when we start, but as we keep going, we just keep going round and around and around and around and around until the length that we want. The key is you got to bead all of your beads in the order that you would want them in, and I'll touch on that in a second. But let's show what we've got here. We got a big old mess. This is the type of thing that I'm going to show how to make tonight. There's all different variations. It's all basically the same thing. It's playing around with your color of beads and the order that you want them in. I'm going to start with this one here. Stitch markers. You could use stitch markers, but you're not really going to need stitch markers in this because you're not increasing or decreasing and you're not really keeping track of how many rows you're doing. In the very beginning, we're going to set our, I don't know the word, the number of stitches per row, per spiral, per round, I should say. But once you do that, you just keep going. You keep going, and you're not really going to need a stitch marker so much. We will be using, for those of you that's going to have a difficulty with this might be a difficult thing. We are going to be using crochet cotton thread. I'm using a larger one, and I am using a 2.75 millimeter hook, so it is going to be on the smaller side. Again, to get the scale for jewelry. If you use a worsted weight yarn, your jewelry is going to be too big to actually wear. So it's all about proportions and scale. So for this one here, I used an off-white thread, single thickness of thread, we're not doubling up, and then it's all the same color bead. And again, these are, I think they're a size 6 seed bead, which I found to be the most appropriate for this. What size crochet thread? A size 5. A 3 would work too. 3 or a 5. I wouldn't go anything smaller because it'd be real thin and it could break easier. And also, I wouldn't be able to see it. If you want, and I don't have it here with me, you could take a couple strands of the really thin of like a 20 crochet, size 20 crochet thread, and get a couple different strands together and pair them up and play around with color that way. So you can mix and match your threads with your beads. So if you notice this is mostly gold, but if you really look in, you can see the off-white that's in there. I didn't have any gold crochet thread at the time. And this is really long. You can make it as long as you want. It depends on how many beads and the length that you want. This one is all solid. So this one I didn't have to worry about what colors of beads to pick up. It's all one color. Once you're done, and this goes with all of them, when you finish it, you can add other larger beads and a clasp. We're not going to do that tonight. Maybe, depending on how far we get tonight, I haven't even strung any beads at all today. So this might be a couple, a project's going to take a couple streams to do. But we could do the clasps at the very end. So that's just solid colored beads. This one here, it's a bracelet. Yes, you can do bracelets. And the pattern of this are 2 gold beads, 2 pink beads. 2 gold, 2 pink. So before you even start any of this, you got to find the order that you want your beads to go in. And if I remember correctly, per round, even though you're not finishing a round, we're not doing X amount of stitches in a round, doing a slip stitch to join, and then doing another round. We're just going around in a spiral. So it's all single crochets. The whole thing is singles. You're just going to do X amount in a spiral, but once you come back to where you started, you're going to go into the next stitch. Just keep going around and around. So there will be a set number of stitches or beads per quote-unquote round. They're not, again, you're not going to finish a round. And this one I think was 8. So I did 2, 2, 2. So I did 2 gold, 2 pink, 2 gold, 2 pink, etc. This one here, we've got some gold and we've got some green, but there's 2 rows. If you see here, there's 2 rows of gold, and I think it's 8. If you remember correctly, there might be 8. They're probably more than 8. I don't remember. Let's just say 8. I made these years ago. Let's say there's 8. So then there'll be 8 gold, 8 more gold, and then so that's 2 rows. And then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I do 5 worth of green. So 8 times 5 is 40. And then I do the gold again. So that's how you get the stripes here. Because again, you're stitching them. You're stringing the beads in order. So the very first bead I strung was here. And you're going around and around and around till you get to the bottom. So you got to figure out your bead placement for your color. Along the same lines, this one here, it's mostly pink. I think there were 2 rows of pink. But then I did a row of this lighter Barbie pink, or not even Barbie pink, light pink, 2 rows of the Barbie pink, then the blue, 2 pink, then the green, and so on. So we've got a different type of stripe. I'll go through a bunch of these, not all of them. This one is a variegated thread, and it might have been 2 strands of thread if I remember correctly. The thread itself has got purples and like an off-white lilac color. All the beads in this are clear. So the thread is making your color pattern. The beads are just adding sparkle. This one here, again, this was stripes. I think I made it for, and this is thinner, so it's a smaller number in our quote-unquote rounds. And I did, again, made it so there's 2 stripes of blue and 2 stripes of green and alternating. This one here, again, it's a thinner than other ones. And I went one color, so I went green, gold, pinky, purple, green, gold, pink, purple, and I went one after another. So you got these thin spiral colors for the beads. And this base, the thread is this green color. This one's a bit chunkier, so there's more beads, or more stitch, 1 bead per stitch. You're not skipping any stitches. There's more beads per quote-unquote round. So I did 3 black, 3 honey color, and 3 of this copper color. So there was 9, this one I can easily see, there was 9 stitches per round. And then you get a bigger, chunkier tube. And again, it's hollow inside because we're doing a spiral. So you're making a tube basically. So you can do the big chunkier style. This, for instance, is all the same. That was real easy to do. Didn't have to worry about picking out specific beads. This one was really difficult to do. And if I remember correctly, this was all done. It was an off-white or a cream-colored thread, and these are actually plastic, these gold beads. But after it was done, yes, I sat here and I took much smaller seed beads, really tiny seed beads, and I hand stitched them into it. I remember that taking forever. So you got this greenish, bluish beads, these tiny little seed beads. They're smaller than the gold beads, and I think there's like 2 in between. And I had to hand stitch those in. I'll never do that again. Black on black. Same thing, mixed up the colors. This one is one of my favorites. When I was making them, I ran out. I had a bunch of different blues and greens, but I didn't have enough beads to do a full necklace. So I did half, and then the other half, I had larger beads. So I did traditional beaded jewel stringing, and I did 2 strands of that, joined them together, and at the bottom, there's a pendant that matches the same colors. So when it's worn, you get this asymmetrical look, half beaded crochet and half traditional beading. Same type of thing, but in pinks and yellows. Exact same thing. Yeah, that blue and green with that pendant. Yeah. I kind of like this one too, but I like the blues and greens better. Let's see. Oops. Drop something on the floor. Bracelet. Wait, where did that one go to? No, I didn't. Must be still in here. Yeah. This one's like cotton candy colors again. I picked one color, then next color. So you could vary the frequency of your color to make the thickness of stripes. Trying to find certain ones. This one here, again, the stripes are thicker because I did 2 of each. And there's a matching bracelet. And then the finishing part for the clasp, yes, you could do a lobster claw clasp like I had on this one here. Very traditional, basic jewelry clasp. But this one, the clasp was actually in the front. It is a bead, a decorative bead, or a button actually. It's not a bead, it's a button. So it's a decorative button I just sewed on there. And then The other end, I made a strand with some beads to make a little toggle. So not only is it the clasp, but it is the front focal point of that necklace. Go through and see if there's a couple other ones that I can show. Some of these, I really like those beads. I love that dark blue color on that. Okay. These beads, the only difference is these beads are anodized aluminum, so you don't have to always use glass beads. Problem is with anodized aluminum, the anodization, the color on there will wear off over time. So that is a problem, an issue with that type of bead. But that's the bead, how the beads are manufactured. That's not anything to do with how the item is put together. Sanding more anodized aluminum. Here's some more clear. And this variegated thread has reds and yellows in it. I'm just going to go through real quick. Here's another one. I did 3 of the dark blue, 3 of the light blue, and so on. And then my clasp, which is larger beads and a clasp, and a glass pendant that matched perfectly, and it was a spiral. So it matched the pattern exactly. I don't think I planned it that way. I think I made the necklace, and then we found the pendant, and it was like, oh, that's perfect. We're going to have another ad. We're going to have an ad break here in a second. So when we come back from the ad, I will go through these last few ones to highlight some of the techniques that I used. So I will be right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sitting through the ad break. So I'm going to show you these few other ones. This one, it's got a matching necklace. Show the necklace. It's random, beachy type sea glass colors, and I add some shell beads to finish it off. So that's kind of cool looking. These next few here are the same type of thing. The clasp is decorative, so you can wear that in the front. This is they're about the same thickness. The difference between these two, each stripe of color, there's only one bead per stripe. This one, there's 3. So it has a slightly different look to it. So these are wider stripes. Same type of thing, it's a different type of bead, but a button clasp. Same type of thing. Same thing with the clasp. You don't have to do a button. This is actually a bead. And I put a bead at the end to keep it from falling off. So there's that one. There's this. This is actually a button. It had a bunch of holes in it. And I ended up just stitching a whole bunch of beads into the end and made a decorative button on my own. Same thing. It's got a big old blingy button that's in the same similar colors. This one I played around, and I didn't use any buttons as a toggle clasp. I did the toggle, but I played around. When I got to the length I wanted, I started increasing, and it's this bulb type end, and you can easily squash that bulb down and move that over. So you could do it that way. I know it kind of looks like a snake's head, and that's not really appealing to some of us, not appealing to me, but that was not my intention. It wasn't to make it look like that. This one is in progress. Same thing, the same colorway. I've had a lot of those beads. I just haven't finished this one. Just had to add the beads, and it'll be done. This one's really long. Oh, what I wanted to show you. Again, you can easily see there's 3 of this honey colored, 3 of this coppery color, and 3 of the black. So there's 9 stitches per round. This one, I think, and I have to count, but I want to say there's 6. No. We'll do a little count real quick. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, no, here's the first one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 or 8. But I think that's another thing. This green one is a little bit thinner of a thread. I want to say this might be a 5, and this one's a 3. So that will help with the scale also, but this is much thinner than this one. Additionally, you can make them as long as you want. These are unfinished. And as I was saying, with doubling up your strands, this is 2 different strands of crochet thread. It's really thin thread. I just treated them as 1 strand. And this is going to be an extra long one. You could possibly even turn this into a belt. Or if you really secure the ends and attach them, they could be a handle to like a purse. They are going to stretch a bit, so I wouldn't really use that as much because it is cotton. This one's super, super long. I was just messing around with it. And then I made these little, whoopsies. That broke. I use elastic beaded thread, which that does have a life to it and it will die. Not die, but it'll break. Shouldn't have said that, but let me move these beads out of the way. But ooh, that looks horrible. But my idea was that you can put them on these little rings of these larger beads, and position them wherever you want and group them together. So if you want to group 3 together and then space them out, so you can change it up, change the look up of whatever you're wearing. But that's something afterwards. That's nothing to do with the crochet part. A couple more to show. Again, this was almost finished. That? Sorry, I hit the wrong button there. I made the necklace, finished it off, and then I took these other types of beads, these shell type of beads, and made these little flower type little add-ons. It's actually a pin, and I was going to make another one, at least another one, to go maybe about here or so. I just hadn't got around to making those. So you can add things to these. And then playing around with color, I just had a bunch of different colors, and I kind of made like a rainbow type. So I did all red, and then just keep going. Okay, so to start with, we need, and I spent a half hour playing show and tell, but that's kind of cool. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to be stringing our beads. So I'm not going to have a specific pattern. If I wanted to, I can sit there and pick out certain colors. I got a mixture of these color beads. There's some blues, greens, pinkies, and like a honey color. And the key is to get a needle. I would not really recommend a really sharp needle. You want a more blunt needle, because when you do this, you're going to be putting them on with your finger, and you don't want to end up poking your finger. The main key thing is the eye of the needle should be large enough to accept the thread when doubled, because you're going to double it over. So you're not going to actually double the whole length. This is just the beading process. Get the beads on the thread. So you're just going to, for a couple inches, it's going to be doubled over. And then the key part is to make certain that the bead, let me find a darker bead, that the bead will go on the needle past the eye, and also the double thickness of your thread. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you can possibly see that. So I got my little bead, and yeah, I know it's tiny, and I will get the magnifying glass out if we need it. So there's our bead, and it fits on the needle perfectly. It goes across the eye. It's like perfect. There's a little resistance, and then it will slide right on. So I just take a bunch, and I'm not necessarily going to be doing a full project with this. I could, if y'all want me to, I can string a whole bunch. I have to string them all first before I crochet, because if I start crocheting, there is a way to do it. I'd have to cut my thread, add more, and rejoin, which can be a pain. So when you do this, you're going to come across a couple of them, like, oh, no, it worked. Nope, this green one won't. The green one won't go past the eye of the needle, so that bead will not work. It might work for other thinner actual beading needles. They do sell needles just for beading alone, and that's a totally different art form. There's no crochet in that. It's usually with, well, there's different versions of it. There are beading looms. I have a beading loom, which I've only ever got out once or twice. Maybe that's something I might bring onto the channel at some point. Actually, I have an example of it. Something that I did a while ago. Just a little test. Again, this is not crochet. This here is, and it's not perfect. This is bead weaving. where you have a loom and you put your strands onto it, and it's a certain way that you have to pick them up a certain way and stitch them on. So, and it's good for bracelets and other decorative type things. And these beads are falling off. Well, that because it's not secure. So it's like a red, white, and blue type of thing. Just something I was testing. But those thinner beads would work good for that, or for much thinner beading wire, but not for this project. Like this green one here, you really can't see it. And I know this is difficult. Actually, not that you need to watch me real close to string a bead. That's not really going to work, probably. I'd have to probably do this. Oops. But you get the idea that that bead will not go past that eye of that needle. So that one is a dud. I don't think we need to see me bead every single little tiny seed bead. So what is everybody working on if you're working on something at the moment or have a whip going on in progress? I've got my blanket I'm making for Project Linus. That's still in progress. I've done, before stream, I did a test little gauge swatch of another blanket I'm going to be making for Project Linus. And I have been dabbling a little in crochet pattern design. I'm barely started with it. There's this blanket with this throw pattern that I am attempting to design. We're going to see if it works or not. No guarantees. Hopefully it will. It will be a mosaic crochet pattern. I'm going to bead a bunch more. We don't have to, like I said, don't have to do a full huge project with this, and that those beads do not want to go onto the needle. The reason why it won't go into the needle is because these are, yes, they're mass produced, but they're glass. So there are going to be slight little differences between each bead. They're not going to be 100% uniform and perfect. Some are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter, some are going to be, the holes in them aren't bored out as much. They do make a tool, and I have a tool. It's actually a couple different tools. Something called a bead reamer. They're for glass and ceramic beads, that if the hole in the bead isn't smooth or just slightly too tiny, it's this metal tool that's kind of got an abrasion on it that you can kind of open up the hole of the bead a little bit more, but you do run the risk of possibly cracking and breaking the bead, and then that is worthless. Well, it's not really worthless. There are other projects you can do with broken beads. You could do other types of art forms with it. Again, there's no pattern to this. I'm picking them up at random. And what I should have done, actually, I don't know if it would have worked with this needle. I've got a bead spinner, which if we're going to do more beading projects here on the channel, I might end up getting that out at some point. It is a motorized, battery-powered little dish thing that will spin around, and you put it's usually for beading needles. You put your needle in there, and as it spins around, it'll put a bunch onto your needle, so it helps the process go a little quicker. I don't know if this would have worked with this. I would have also come across the problem of, yeah, it'll put a bunch on my needle, but you get a bead like this where it won't go past the eye. Hey there, Fairy Dust. How are you? I like that thing that you sent me earlier today. That was funny. Just to show what I'm going to be making today, for anybody who's coming in, let me move some of these unfinished projects out of the way. This one, where's my favorite one? We're making beaded crochet jewelry. So these chunky tubes. I'm not doing in a specific pattern. I thought you might appreciate it. Sometimes a little too snarky for my own good. Oh, King of Snark. King of Snark right here. If you don't mind me sharing, Fairy Dust had sent me a DM on Discord earlier of a group that they're in, and it was a crochet group, and somebody had asked, where's the best place to learn granny squares? And Fairy Dust responded, Grammy, you're gonna get a kick out of this. So somebody said, where's the best place to learn granny squares? And Fairy Dust said, in Granny's geometry class. That was pretty funny. We love a good pun. We love a good pun on this channel, or at least I do. And Grammy's probably thinking, oh Lord, oh God. She's probably groaning over there. Okay. I'm coming across a bunch of these that won't fit on the needle, but like I said, that will happen because they're real glass. And when glass is formed and cools, it's not always going to be a uniform shape. Even though they try to do this, they try to get it uniform, there are tolerances in the production of pretty much anything. So everything's not going to be perfect. There you go, Grammy. Okay, so I've got about that much done. I'd probably say that, well, let's measure it, because I got a little measuring, got a cutting mat underneath. So we're a little over a foot. I'm going to do a little bit more. This is a very time-consuming project. You're not going to get results right away because of the time it takes to bead. Not equip without a rim shot. Exactly. Again, you're the creator of that quib. All credit goes to Fairy Dust. Yeah, I try to be careful on some of those social media posts because I can be a little too snarky for my own good. And sometimes it's come to bite me in the butt. So, depending on the situation and the context, I try to temper or censor myself a bit. Okay. I'm not going to do too much more of this, as I don't want you to watch me to sit here and put beads on a needle for 2 hours. I don't think that's riveting. Okay. Go a little bit more. Snarkiest gets us in trouble. No, never yet. No, no, yeah, no. I must have had a lapse in thinking. No, snarkiness has never gotten me in trouble. Oh, before I go any further, I don't know if anybody is interested. I'm going to see if this works. I've never done this on here before. If anybody is interested, here on Twitch, there's a somewhat well-known user. His name is PickStitch. He is a what what is the term? Multi. Oh, I forgot the term. Anyway, he streams. So he streams a lot of making and crafting. He will play some video games from time to time, but he does crochet, a lot of amigurumi. He does a lot of pixel art. That's why his name is PickStitch. He does cross stitch, bunch of different things. He is celebrating his brand, the third anniversary of his brand. It's not his third anniversary here on Twitch. The third anniversary of his brand. He's celebrating it tomorrow. He just became partner beginning of the week. So if anybody is interested in his channel, tomorrow was his anniversary date, and he is going to be having an anniversary stream. It says starting at 10 a.m., but I don't know what time zone that is. I want to say that's Mountain or Pacific. I know he's in Canada, but I'm not certain if he's in what exact time zone he's in. So if anybody is interested, check out PickStitch. And those of you who don't know of him, definitely check him out. He's popped into my stream a couple times. I think I rated his stream once or twice in the past. Faraday says, in person, my delivery is often very dry and deadpanned. So people often struggle to tell if I'm joking or not sometimes. And by sometimes, I mean all the time, unless they know me very well. Yeah, I can be like that too sometimes. Yes, Pix is very cool, personable, and very talkative. Very talkative. So, check him out. And those of you who are watching this on the YouTube upload or the VOD, and it's after Sunday the 30th, and you've missed the celebration stream, you can still check out his stream, and his channel name is PIX underscore stitch. That we try to support other streamers. I mean, I know he does the same, and a lot of the other makers and crafters here definitely support each other. What I might end up having to do, let me turn my audio setting down a little bit. That got a little loud for me. I think what I might end up doing is on the Discord, make a channel of fellow streamers to check out if anybody would want that as a resource. And believe it or not, we're going to another ad. So when we come back from ad, during ad, I'm going to be stitching. beading some more beads, and when we come back from ad, I will start the crochet part, because the theme is beaded crochet. We've just done the beaded part. We haven't done any of the crochet. So, get a few more. Yeah, like I said, the ad will be coming up here momentarily. Beads don't all want to fit past that eye. Okay, I will be right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sitting through that ad. Fairy Dust says, I think I'm going to try to bust up some of my worsted stash and make a granny square blanket. It'd be hideous because of all the colors. I don't do something to get rid of the yarn, I'm going to be out of small fortune in totes. No, I totally understand that. Possibly, if you make one, maybe, do it as a charity project. Donate it to a charity in your area that would take blankets. Project Linus, other types of charities will accept them. So just an idea. Alrighty. So while we were on stream, I've added more beads again. It's not a whole lot. I would do a whole lot more beads to do a necklace because, again, you're doing X amount of beads / stitches per quote-unquote round. We're doing it in a spiral. We're not doing a round, let's say 8. We're not doing 8 stitches, slip stitch to finish, and then chain up, and then do 8 more. We're not making, I don't have access to it. Let me move all of this out of the way, all of my Throwback Thursday stuff. We're not really doing like a basket here. I mean, it kind of is. I mean, there are, I think, about 70 stitches per row, but when I would get to an end, to the end of a round for this, I'd slip stitch, chain one, and then keep going. We're not doing that. We're no slip stitching, no chaining. When we change from round to round, we just keep going. The very beginning is where you have to pay attention to how many stitches. I'm not having a specific pattern, so it's not like we're not doing a stripe here where I've got 3 black, 3 copper, and 3 honey colored. That right there is specific, so I would have 9. So I had to do 3, 3, and 3. If not, it would look kind of weird. It would, if I ended up doing 10, everything will be off slightly. So that one, Ferda says, here, insert charity name. I made you an ugly blanket. That is what popped into my head. I know it would be good for a homeless shelter or something. I may consider that, and maybe a nursing home. Yeah. And I don't think they're not really going to look at it as being, ooh, that's an ugly blanket. It's a practical item. It's going to provide somebody with warmth and comfort. It's not necessarily, oh, that's hideous. Most of the recipients, they're not going to care. So, for what I'm doing here, I have no pattern. It's all random. So I can pick whatever number of stitches. So if I want it to be 9 stitches around, if I want it to be 7, 6, I wouldn't go anything, wouldn't do 5. 6 would probably be about the thinnest I would do because of the size of the beads. So I think what I'm going to end up doing for this one is I'm going to do 8. So to start this, and this is where I will need Mr. Magnifying Glass to come in. I gotta tighten this arm. Oh, not loosen it. I gotta tighten this arm so it doesn't move on me. Okay. This is just so you can see it because it's thin. Whoa. Wait, where am I? Where am I? There we go. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to chain X number of chains, slip stitch it to form a ring, and this is with no beads. I'm going to do a couple quote-unquote rounds. It's actually going to be a spiral. I'm going to have to count. So I'm going to do multiple 8. So real simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 chains there. I know you really can't see it because it's there we go. There's 8 chains. And I'm going to slip stitch into my first one to join. And I am working into the first one. I will work into the round. Technically, I could have done smaller amount of chains there, but just to keep it simple, I am going to go into the ring and do 8. 1. Actually, no, I do need to make a smaller amount of chains. Let's start over. I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch into my first one to join. And there's our tiny, tiny, tiny little ring. Yes, there is a ring there. And into the center, I will do 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. So we have a ring. And into the ring, I've got 8 singles. So now I'm going to go in next into my very next stitch. So the first single we did. And I'm going to put in a single. Again, no slip stitch, no chain, none of that. Go into my next one, and I'm going to count 8 again. So there's 1, and it's 1 stitch per stitch. 1, and then the next one, do another, so that's 2. The next one is number 3. The next one is number 4. The next one's number 5. The next is number 6. The next is number 7. And this next one is number 8. This is just to get us started. I'm going to do that one more time. So go into the next one, and that gets 1, so that's 1. The next one, and trying to find this is the difficult part. The next one is number 2. The next is number 3. That was number 3. And as we're doing this, we're using up this thread, so we're going to get our beads. Well, I'm not ready for the beads yet. So I got to take all of these beads, which those are the beads, and I got to push them down towards the working ball of yarn, because I don't need those at the moment. The more beads you have on it, if you're going to do a longer necklace, you're going to be having more beads. You're going to have to take this in sections, pushing them down, pushing them down, pushing them down, so you have some thread to actually work with. So that was number 3. The next one is number 4. Next one's number 5. The next is number 6. Next one is number 7. And this next one is number 8. So we did 3 quote-unquote rounds of 8. You can do whatever number you want. And now I'm just kind of forming it, and what might help is use the back of my hook. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to form it into, see, it's like a tube. Move out of the way. There is a hole at the end, and when you're finished, when you're completely finished, you can always take, you could have started with a magic ring. There is that option, and cinch it up. Or I'm just going to take the thread and just stitch through and close it up. So we are going to have a tube. So this is the beginning of our tube right there. I got to move the lamp in the right way. So I've got our 3. You could do however many you want, however many rows or rounds. I've done 3 there. I think that's enough. So now I'm going to take some beads and bring them down towards my work. My work is right there, and I know this is difficult to see with the camera and the magnifying glass and everything involved. But I'm only going to use a small amount of beads at a time. So I've done my 3 rows. You could do however many rows that you want. So now I'm ready to do my 4th row. So I'm going to slide a bead down, go into the next stitch, which is the first of our round. And this is the only time we're going to have to worry about counting with beads. After we get this first one established, we won't have to worry about it. There's a little bead there. I don't know if you could see. So I slid the bead down close to my work, put the stitch in, put the hook into the next stitch, and do a single crochet. Slide a bead down, go into the stitch, and do the single crochet. Hopefully this is showing up on camera. Slide the bead down, go into the very next stitch, do a single. Slide a bead, and do a single in the next stitch. Now, I'm going to slide a bead. So this is our 5th one we've done. Do a stitch. Slide a bead. Do a stitch. And that's the rest of this pattern. I mean, the rest of this project. And once I get this established, hopefully you all can see what I'm doing. Probably not. It's probably just nothing but a blur. Okay. So I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to show you what I've done. I actually see better that way. So, whoopsies, So I've got 8 stitches because we went around each round has 8 stitches. And each stitch has a bead. So there's 8, well, there's only 7 there. I guess I've missed one. 4, yeah, I missed one. Whoops. Okay, slide it down, go into the stitch, and do a single. So we've got that round has got 8 stitches. Each stitch has a bead. And now we don't have to worry about how many are in the round. We just go to the next stitch, slide a bead, and then the next stitch, do a single. Slide a bead, the very next stitch, do a single. Slide 1 bead, the next stitch, do a single. Now I'm running out of working yarn because each time we do a single, we're eating up the yarn. But the beads are there. So you're going to constantly having to stop. Can I work in continuous rounds? What do you mean by continuous rounds? Meaning going around, slip stitch to join the round, chain up, and then keep going. You could. That's like an extra couple stitches. All I'm doing is I'm not finishing the round. I'm working in a spiral. So I'm not finishing the round as in like you would with a granny square. With a granny square, you'd go around, slip stitch to join, and then wherever you do it, chain up however many to go. We're not doing any of that. We're just going into the very next stitch that comes along and do a stitch. And then we're going to slide a bead. And I'm not counting anymore. I'm not counting how many I've done. I'm just going to the very next stitch and doing a single. Slide the bead down, go to the next stitch. I have no idea what number bead I just did. It doesn't matter because I've already established my pattern when I did my first couple rows that didn't have beads, and then my first row that had beads. I made certain that I had the right amount. Go in, do a stitch, slide the next bead down, go into the very next stitch, and do a stitch. And you're going to work this till you run out of beads, or beforehand if you have decided that is as long as you want it. Slide the bead down, go in and do the stitch. The tedious part is, it's small thread and small hooks, but also make certain you're going in the right stitch, which is the very next one. You're not skipping, you're not increasing, you're not decreasing. And also dealing with the beads from the previous round, the previous row, with the hook. But it's really not that difficult. I think the worst part is the beading to begin with, getting all the beads on your thread, and it being thin thread and a small hook. I like actually working with it because, yeah, you feel the beads in your hand, but also anything that you've already done, it's tactile. Like if you feel one of these, and I know you guys can't feel it because it's the internet, but I like the texture. It's a smooth texture, but it's kind of like a, I guess you could use this as like a fidget device, like fidget spinners and fidget cubes and that type of thing. It is a very tactile, sensory type thing. So not necessarily a necklace. You can still use this for anything else you want. It definitely has that, and it's squishy because it's cotton and it's hollow. So you can squeeze it and you're not going to hurt anything. It's not going to damage anything. I mean, pretty strong beads. Like I said, I'm using a size 6 seed bead. It's a very common size of seed beads. Most craft stores are going to have them. And they come in all different colors, and they're mostly glass. You can get plastic ones, like that gold one. Where's that gold? These gold beads are slightly bigger, but they still work. If you're going to use jewelry, I wouldn't use anything bigger, anything really large, because then, do you fill it with poly, or I leave it hollow? I leave it hollow, and then at the ends, when I'm completely done, I leave and I should have left a longer starting tail, leave a long enough tail at each end, and I stitch it shut with a regular hand needle. What you can also do is, and I forgot how I did it. It's been years since I made these. This bead here, this gold bead, there is some crochet thread in the center of that bead, and that is what's connecting this jump ring. And I know you can't see it because it's shiny, but there is a jump ring, and a jump ring is just a metal jewelry finding. It's a ring it's actually a split ring, not a jump ring. This is actually, no, it is a jump ring. It's a metal ring, jewelry finding ring that come in different colors, either gold, silver, brass, whatever. And there is a little slit in it, so you can slide your clasp and your other pieces onto it. You can get real creative with that. maybe at some point I might do just basic beaded jewelry stream, and I can show more about how to finish it off. But I leave it hollow, and these are cotton. Okay, there's nothing in here that is going to, what's the word? I'm not saying they're indestructible, but they're pretty sturdy. You can get them wet. I wouldn't wash them because the cotton could shrink. But let's say you happen to accidentally leave one on for like a bracelet or whatever, and you went swimming. I don't really know if you would wear this to the pool, but I guess you could. I would just let it dry, air dry. It's just cotton. And there's no, I don't stuff it with any filling because it pretty much holds its shape. And I'd be afraid some of the polyfill or whatever you fill it with would come through. Amigurumi, I understand, because amigurumi, you're not going to wear it for the most part. This is a wearable thing, so it's going to take some movement and all, and I'd be concerned of things working their way out. But if you leave it hollow, you should be good. So if something interests you, definitely look into the different beads, the different crochet cotton, and you don't have to use a 5. You can use a 3, which, again, with crochet cotton, the smaller the number, the thicker the thread. So if this is a 5, a 3 would be thicker than this, a 10, a 20, they even have 30. They're much thinner. And they come in all different colors. And you can find some of them variegated. Also, you can pair up 2 of the thinner, like 2 size 20, in 2 different colors that will coordinate, and treat them as one strand, so you can have some different playing around with color. And some of the examples that I showed, like this one here, this one that I showed, the thread, if I remember, I have to look at the end here. I think there might have been 2 threads I used. No, that's 1 thread. Yeah, the thread has got areas that are red and areas that are yellow. All of these beads are clear seed beads. They're a little bit of an iridescent, but they're pretty much clear. So the thread is the color pattern, as opposed to something like this. And what the example I'm working on here, the beads are my pattern, and I just match it up with a coordinating or non-coordinating thread. So it's real, once you get into it, once you get a few rows done, it's like second nature. You got to get past if you're not used to working with the thin thread, you got to get past that. I mean, obviously, if you can't see it, you can't see it. I totally get that. I need to slide more beads towards me because I'm running out of, no, that section didn't have any beads, so I needed to bring it closer. So, again, there's no fancy stitches. It's slide a bead and then do a stitch. And that stitch that you do, that single crochet, is locking that bead in place. And believe it or not, we're going to another ad. Time is flying tonight. But I find crochet relaxing, period. But this I find very relaxing to do. Yeah, you might think it'd be kind of tedious, and the tedious part is if you come across a knot in your thread. That's the part that's not fun. So I'll continue this while we're at our next ad break. And when we come back, I will be working more on it. I will be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So that's how far I've got. Again, they're at random. So it does take some time, but if you get the rhythm in doing this, it can kind of work up somewhat fast. And this way, you're only doing, like I said, you're only doing single crochets. So it's not like you have to refer back to a pattern or anything. It's not like, oh, what do I do now? It's all single crochets, the entire thing. Because it's not so much the stitch that is the decorative part, it's the beads. And the stitch just locks the beads into place. Yeah, and I know it's kind of blurry. It looks better in person than it does on camera. But usually I have a bunch of beads here in my tensioning hand that are ready to go. So I can easily just slide one up. Now again, if you wanted the pattern, you'd have to string them in the order that you would want them in. Because they're all captive, they're being held on the string. Or the thread, I should say. Yes, you can cut and add, but I really don't like doing that when it comes to this. Because hiding the knot can be tricky. I have had to do that before. And then this example, which I've shown on stream before, is the exact same thing. And how many did I do? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There were 10 stitches / beads per round. So this one's a little bit thicker than the 8. And then that's why it's hollow. I should have done a little bit better finishing the end there, but this was a little sample. And it makes a really good pen. I don't know what you would call this. I know, like, when you're in, like, elementary school and you're learning to write, they put those foam little things on the pencil to help you grip it. But it's actually very comfortable to write with this on a pen. You just like a cheap disposable pen. A grip, yeah. You just slide it right on. Yeah, it'll slide a bit, but it'll hold enough, this size. And then, there you go. So it doesn't have to be just jewelry. Find other uses for these. I did, at one point, try to make a pair of earrings with this. It did not turn out well. I have them someplace. I don't know where they went. It didn't work. When it was a short little section, it was shorter than this. It didn't now. So I wouldn't recommend earrings. I definitely recommend necklaces, bracelets. Like for bracelets, where's one of my continuous bracelets? For the bracelet here, I kept going, and then, if I remember correctly, that's coming undone. I got the length that I wanted, and then I had to hand stitch it all together. Don't really remember exactly how I did that, but you would hand stitch and pick up beads and try to keep your pattern the same. If I remember correctly, that was kind of tricky to do. So that is a bangle claspless type bracelet, and it's flexible, so you can kind of just twirl it all around and it'll still work. Even that would make a really cool little fidget toy. And then, like I said, if you just wanted to play around with it and just do a section of it, just do one half and do the other half in traditional beading, you can do a half and half project. It doesn't all have to be beaded crochet. Like I said, I found a pendant that matched perfectly and had a bunch of different random blues and greens beads, and I have to do a double strand, and then I finished them off the same way. Big chunky beads. Yes, a lot of these are plastic, some are glass. I think actually no. All of these are glass. That one might be plastic. Anyway. The options there's tons of options. Those of us who are crocheters, venture out of that yarn aisle. See what else is out there. There's more to the craft store than just yarn. Speaking of craft stores, I told Grammy this earlier. The other day I went to Michael's, and actually, when I get a chance here, I'll show and tell what I got. I had a $5. I'm part of their rewards program, so I had a $5 rewards coupon, so I used that. And then this morning, I get an email. They sent me a $10 rewards. It's like, dang it. They're enabling me. No, I get it. It's a business. Heck, I used to work for them years ago. So, I understand. Oh, I almost lost where my stitch went. And when you do this, when you go around and around, and if you notice, if you've ever crocheted in the round, and like you're gonna make a basket where you're not, if you're doing in the round where you're not increasing, like if you're making a tube here, you'll notice that the stitches kind of like interlock from row to row. They kind of nestle in between each other. Well, that's what these beads are doing. That's not a good example. This is a better example here. You can kind of see, where's my little pointer? With this bead here, it's kind of nestled in between there just because the way the stitches are. So they kind of all line up and almost interlock. And I would work this again until either I run out of beads. Well, here's a knot. That will happen. Okay, that knot I was able to pull and pop out. If you come across a knot, try to work it, untie it before it causes a major problem. Because if not, you will have to cut it. You might have beads scattered everywhere. It's not a fun thing. Like I said, you'd either keep going until you run out of beads, most likely I would put more beads on my thread, and then more than I think I would ever use in a project, and then crochet them up to whatever length you would need if you're making a necklace, a bracelet, whatever. And then when you go to finish it, then you still have beads on your thread. Either keep them on there. I would do a knot to keep the beads from falling off, or just take the beads off and reuse them for some other project. Again, you can use different size beads if you want to do the really, really tiny. I think, don't know what size, 8, 10. The really tiny ones. I've got some of those. I can barely see them. I would definitely use a thinner thread because they're not going to be able to be strong on the cotton. But if you want a thinner ones, go right ahead. If you can see them and see enough to do the stitches. Okay, that bead, I guess it shifted where it was not going to lay right. And if you are a tight hooker like I am, when you do the stitch, it'll cinch it up and really let it sit into place. But even if you are a looser hooker, then it should work fine too. Again, these are only single crochets. You're not making a lacy open type item. They're not really going to fall through to the inside, because what's the point if the beads are on the inside? You're not going to be able to see them. Also, if somebody is new to this type of crochet, I would recommend just doing a tube without the beads. Just practice a tube of crocheting in a spiral. Again, I haven't counted since that very first row of beads. I don't know what row I'm on. I don't know how many beads I've done. You just need that to establish it. Once you've established, you just keep going. And every now and then, I guess you could check to make certain that you had 4. I mean, not 4, you had 8, the right amount per round. You could, if you wanted to, like this one here, where the end, I got to a certain point, I increased. And when I increased, again, all I did was when I did the increase, I added a stitch. I added a bead. So you can make them thicker. And then you can make them thinner again. So if you wanted it to have different sections where you have thin sections and thick, you can do that. You just would increase and decrease like you normally would. Like I said, I've got some beads here on the inside of my hand that I just slide up as I need them. I'm getting less and less working yarn, so then I keep pulling it and move the beads down till I got more working yarn right there ready to go. And I got this much of beads in my hand. Take one at a time. Getting near the end of the beads that I had strung. I think I had strung about 2 feet or so of beads. And that's all I have left. Everything I've done, and this is all the beads I have left that are strung. So keep in mind, however thick and wide you make this, those beads, you got to do a lot more because this is only about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches. So an average size necklace does take a lot of beads because you're going all the way around. Come on. Certain I'm going in the stitch. Yeah, going in the stitch. When you get to the length that you want, if you're making a necklace or if you're making a bracelet that has a clasp, actually, if anything that has a clasp, I would do a couple more rows like you started, a couple rows here at the beginning, about 3 rows, do a couple more rows at the end, and then finish off, leave a really long tail, and then you can worry about how to add your findings and your clasps to finish it. If you're doing one that doesn't have a clasp, if you're doing like the bangle, again, it's been a while since I've done it, so I don't really remember how I did that one. I think that's only a few of those. I think what I did was I stopped where I was, and then I joined and somehow stitched the ends that didn't have beads, stitched them down a little bit, and then stuck them in. Obviously, it's just too small to form a ring. And then stitched them, and then as I was stitching, I would bring a bead here and there to match up the pattern and to close it off. If you're going to do one that has a toggle clasp, the one end, it could be your beginning end, attach your button or your bead or whatever you're going to use, secure, and then your other end, finish off, and then hand stitch the stitches. I wouldn't actually do any rows that didn't have beads. So you finish your bead, your stitch that has a bead, and you go through and you stitch it shut, and you leave a long enough tail, and then string a bunch of your beads on that tail, and then stitch it back in to make a loop a couple times. Obviously measure it to see how long you would need it to go around your button, and that's how you finish it. That'd be really easy to finish off a bracelet. You don't have to worry about any clasp or anything. You make your own. And that's all, like I said, that's all we're doing is we're sliding a bead down to our work, doing a single crochet to lock it, and repeat the process. Okay, I've got a handful left. That's how much we've got so far. Like I said, it will take a lot of beads to do a standard necklace. And that is beaded crochet jewelry. All different colors, mix and match. Pretty cool fun. Alrighty then, I think we're gonna call it a night. I think we're gonna go find somebody to raid tonight. And let me put this away. See who's on. Let's do this. Go there. Um, that's what we're gonna do. Alrighty then, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for the beaded crochet jewelry. I'll be on tomorrow night, starting tomorrow through the month of August. We're not really going to have anything scheduled besides Throwback Thursdays. We're just going to sit and chill. We're going to work on a bunch of charity blankets. I might find something else to mess around with. I'm not certain. I've got a couple blanket ideas, patterns in mind for Project Linus. So that's what we will do tomorrow. Like I said previously, the other week or the other day, you move this out of the way. September, we're going to possibly bring back the temperature blanket project, and we have a granny event coming up in September. So I think we're going to call it a night. we're gonna go raid Sarcastic Yarn Hoarder, and we're gonna do the raid before we go into an ad. And I don't want to add to cut us all off. So I will talk to you all tomorrow, and happy crafting. And stick around for the raid. Come on, raid. It takes a little while to do the little thing and the thing. Good night, everybody.